There's a number most people have never really stopped to calculate. It's not the loan payment, it's not the annual insurance premium, and it's not that car service you needed last year. It's the sum of all of that over 10 years, put into a single line of a spreadsheet that nobody dares to open. And when someone finally does open it, the result is usually disturbing. For most Americans, maintaining a combustion engine car for a decade costs between $80,000 and $100,000. That's not an exaggeration. It's simple math applied to a reality that the automotive industry prefers nobody to perceive so clearly. This number includes gasoline, and gasoline alone already represents a staggering chunk of the bill. Depending on the city, the vehicle model, and usage habits, an average American driver spends between $2,000 and $4,000 a year just on fuel. Multiply that by 10, and you already have between $20,000 and $40,000 evaporated at gas stations, subject to price fluctuations that no one controls, that rise on holidays, that skyrocket during international crises, and that never ask permission before squeezing the wallets of those who depend on their cars to live. But gasoline is only the visible part of the problem. What really erodes the budget is the invisible layer of costs that appear without warning. A timing belt that breaks on a Friday afternoon. An alternator that decides to stop working 3 weeks after the warranty expires. A water pump that starts leaking just when the accounts were balanced. Each of these events, in isolation, seems like a passing misfortune. But when you look at 10 years of history, it becomes clear that it's not bad luck, it's a pattern. Internal combustion engines have hundreds of moving parts, and each one is a potential bill waiting for the right moment to arrive. What Tesla is proposing with the Model 2 isn't simply a cheaper car to buy. It's a shift in the logic of what it means to own a vehicle. And this distinction matters much more than it seems at first glance. A cheaper car can still be expensive to maintain. A car designed to cost less over time is a completely different proposition, and that's exactly what the electric motor represents in practice. While a combustion engine relies on controlled explosions, fluids, belts, filters, and an endless chain of components that wear out sequentially, the electric motor operates with a simplicity that borders on disconcerting. Fewer moving parts directly mean fewer points of failure, fewer visits to the repair shop, and fewer surprises at the end of the month. Comparing cost per kilometer driven is where the numbers begin to tell a story that's hard to ignore. Filling up with gasoline in the United States, considering the current average price, costs the equivalent of more than $4 per gallon in much of the country. Charging an electric vehicle at home during the early morning hours, when energy rates are at their lowest, costs the equivalent of approximately 70 cents per gallon. That's not a marginal difference. It's a difference of almost 6 times the cost of energy to travel the same distance. For someone who drives 15,000 to 20,000 miles a year, that represents a real saving of more than $1,000 annually in fuel alone. Home charging changes something that goes beyond money. It changes your routine. Who hasn't thought about how much time they've spent in gas station queues, especially on holidays, during times of crisis, or in cities where gas stations are considerable distances away? With the Model 2, the logic is completely reversed. The driver connects the cable upon arriving home, just like connecting a cell phone, and wakes up the next day with a fully charged battery. The concept of, "I need to refuel today," no longer exists. There's only the simple habit of connecting the car at night and starting each morning with full range available. There's a dimension of automotive design that rarely appears in technical specifications or magazine comparisons, but directly affects the quality of life of millions of drivers every day. It's not engine power, it's not trunk size, and it's not the multimedia system technology. It's something much simpler and more concrete. The ease of getting in and out of the car. It seems like a minor detail until it isn't. For those who experience stiffness in their joints in the morning, for those whose knees protest when bending too much, or for those who need to lean on the door to get up from the seat, This detail becomes a decisive factor in whether the car will be used with pleasure or avoided with excuses. And when the car starts to be avoided, independence begins to diminish. The Model 2's seat height was designed to strike a balance point that most conventional vehicles don't achieve. Traditional sedans position the driver too close to the ground, requiring controlled descent and ascent that demands considerable effort from the legs and core. Large pickup trucks and SUVs solve this problem by raising the axis too high, creating another obstacle: the high entry step that requires arm strength and balance to climb. The Model 2 positions itself between these two extremes, at a height that allows the driver to simply sit down, in the natural way one sits in a regular chair, without needing to bend down too much or hoist themselves up. This difference, experienced daily, is felt in the body even before the car is started. The doors complement this access logic. The wider-than-average opening angle for compact vehicles in this category eliminates the familiar maneuver of twisting the body sideways to fit the shoulders before entering. Anyone who has ever tried to get into a compact car while carrying grocery bags or while holding something in one hand knows exactly what this is about. The generously opening door changes the entire movement. The body enters head-on, the arms have space, and the seat accommodates the driver without requiring involuntary contortions. These are centimeters of difference in the opening that translate into a completely different experience in everyday practice. Behind every engineering decision in the Model 2 lies a clear logic. But there's also a trade-off that needs to be understood before signing any contract. The first of these decisions is gigacasting, and it's perhaps the most impactful of all in terms of practical consequences for the owner. Instead of welding dozens of smaller metal pieces together to form the vehicle's structure, Tesla fuses large sections of the chassis into single pieces of aluminum using absurdly high-pressure presses. The result is a more rigid structure, with fewer joints that can loosen over time, fewer seams where rust and water infiltration often begin, and a body that maintains its structural integrity for much longer under normal usage conditions. From a manufacturing standpoint, it's an elegant solution that reduces costs and increases consistency. The problem arises when this same cast part needs to be repaired after a medium to high-intensity collision. A conventional body shop works by cutting out the damaged section and welding new metal in its place. With gigacasting, this approach is not possible. The cast part cannot be repaired. It needs to be replaced entirely. Insurance analysts who have studied Tesla models with this technology estimate that repairs that would cost between $1,000 and $500 in a conventional vehicle can reach values between $4,000 and $8,000 in a vehicle with a cast structure. This data is not theoretical. It is already appearing in the spreadsheets of American insurance companies and directly influencing the premiums charged and decisions on whether to indemnify or declare a total loss. The second critical decision involves the battery pack. The Model 2 was designed with a smaller battery than other Tesla models, delivering an estimated range of between 250 and 300 miles per charge. For most daily commutes, this capacity is more than sufficient. The point of attention is the weather conditions. Lithium-ion batteries lose efficiency significantly in low temperatures, and the range reduction in cold climates can reach 30% or more. A vehicle that delivers 300 miles on a summer day may offer little more than 200 miles on a harsh winter morning. For those living in regions with mild climates, this is almost irrelevant. For those facing severe winters in the north of the country, it is a variable that needs to be seriously considered before purchase. There's a category of information that rarely appears in new vehicle launches, presentation events, or technical specifications pages. Not because it's secret, but because it's inconvenient for anyone trying to sell something. These are the real risks, the ones that only become visible when the launch enthusiasm cools and early owners begin to report their real-world experiences. With the Model 2, 4 of these risks deserve special attention, not to discourage purchase, but because ignoring them can turn a smart financial decision into an expensive and unexpected problem. The first risk is directly connected to the gigacasting discussed earlier, but it manifests itself in a way that most people don't anticipate. American insurance companies calculate whether it's worthwhile to repair a vehicle based on a simple equation. If the repair cost exceeds a certain percentage of the car's current market value, it's declared a total loss. In conventional lower-value vehicles, this line is only crossed in fairly severe collisions. In the Model 2, due to the high repair costs of cast parts, this line can be crossed in impacts that would be considered moderate in any other vehicle. A car valued at $15,000 with a repair bill of $6,000 can be declared a total loss by the insurance company, which then pays the owner the depreciated market value, often less than the original purchase price, and terminates the contract. The driver is left without the car and with a check that doesn't cover what was paid. The second risk involves the vehicle's integrated architecture and what happens when a component of that architecture fails. In the Model 2, the battery pack is not just the car's power source. It also functions structurally as part of the vehicle's floor, integrating functions that are separate in conventional cars. This integration is efficient under normal conditions, but it creates a specific vulnerability. When something fails in an integrated system, the solution is rarely to replace only the defective part. Often, it is necessary to replace the entire module. In cases of severe damage to the floor from impact with an object on the road, for example, the cost of replacing the assembly can exceed the total value of the vehicle, making the repair economically unfeasible even when the car is still in good condition in all other respects. The third risk is temporal and specifically affects those planning to be among the first buyers when the Model 2 hits the market in the second half of 2026. Every new vehicle platform goes through an adjustment period that early owners experience firsthand before the corrections reach the production line. The first batches of the Model 3, when it was launched, showed quality variations that included gaps in the body panels, water leaks, and inconsistencies in the interior finishes. Knowing the risks of a vehicle is only half the battle. The other half is honestly understanding whether each driver's usage profile matches what that vehicle was designed to do. The Model 2 isn't a car for everyone, and recognizing that doesn't diminish the product. On the contrary, it demonstrates that it was built with a specific purpose in mind, and that this purpose serves a specific group of people very well. The driver who benefits most from the Model 2 is one who drives known and predictable routes, who doesn't frequently exceed 200 miles in a single day, who has access to a power outlet at home for overnight charging, and who lives in a region where the climate doesn't drop to extreme temperatures for much of the year. For this profile, the financial proposition is solid, the user experience is consistent, and the learning curve with the technology is smooth enough not to generate frustration. For drivers living in southern U.S. states, where sub-zero temperatures are rare and daily commutes rarely exceed 50 miles, the Model 2 offers a near-perfect combination of economy and practicality. The battery will never be pushed to its limits. Overnight charging will always provide full range in the morning, and reduced maintenance costs will make a noticeable difference to the budget over the years. This is precisely the scenario for which the car was designed, and within it, it performs consistently. The cost predictability the vehicle offers is truly valuable for anyone who manages their finances with planning, especially when income doesn't allow for unexpected $4,000 or $5,000 surprises. However, there are a number of situations where the Model 2 begins to show its limitations in a concrete way. Drivers who regularly travel long distances in a single day, crossing states during leisure trips or visits to distant relatives, will need to plan charging stops with a level of advance notice that is not necessary in combustion engine vehicles. Tesla's supercharger network is extensive, but it is not present on all routes, especially in rural and less populated areas. In a combustion engine vehicle, running out of fuel far from a gas station is unlikely because gas stations are practically everywhere. In an electric vehicle, Managing range requires constant attention on unusual routes, which for some drivers is a smooth adjustment and for others is a constant source of anxiety. Those who value the freedom to take their car to any independent workshop, whether for cost reasons, trust in a long-time mechanic, or simply geographical convenience, will find a significant limitation in the Model 2. The vehicle's architecture, with its integrated systems and proprietary software, restricts a large part of technical interventions to Tesla's own service network. Independent workshops do not have access to the diagnostic tools necessary to work on many of the vehicle's systems, and this means that the owner is, in practice, tied to a single service provider. In large cities with nearby Tesla centers, this is merely a preference. In smaller cities or regions with limited service network coverage, it can become a real logistical problem. Even before the Model 2 officially arrives at dealerships in the second half of 2026, a completely different problem is already spreading across social media, email inboxes, and even text messages directed at people who have shown interest in the vehicle. This isn't a technical flaw or an engineering limitation. It's something deliberately designed to deceive, and it's working with alarming efficiency. Scammers are impersonating Tesla representatives, creating professional-looking fake pages using the brand name and visual identity with enough precision to confuse even those paying attention, and offering the opportunity to secure an early reservation for the Model 2 by paying a deposit. The message is always urgent, always exclusive, and always designed to create the feeling that hesitation means losing the chance. Tesla has not opened official reservations for the Model 2. No authorized company representative is collecting deposits through channels outside the brand's official website. Any contact received via email, text message, phone call, or social media offering the possibility of reserving the vehicle with an upfront payment is, without exception, an attempted fraud. This point deserves to be reiterated clearly because the number of people who have already fallen victim to this type of scam in previous Tesla product launches is significant. The Model 3 and Cybertruck generated similar waves of fraud during their anticipation periods, and in both cases, there were reports of individual losses reaching thousands of dollars before the victims realized what had happened. The psychological mechanism behind these scams is sophisticated and deserves to be understood. Genuine interest in a real product is used as fuel for the trap. The person who researched the Model 2, watched videos about it, and talked to friends about it has already built an emotional predisposition towards the vehicle. When a message arrives offering early access, the brain doesn't process it as a threat, but as an opportunity aligned with something already desired. This state of anticipated desire reduces natural distrust and accelerates decision-making. Scammers know this and build their approaches precisely to exploit this moment of emotional vulnerability, which has nothing to do with naivete and everything to do with how the human brain functions under the effect of anticipation. Identifying a scam attempt before being affected by it requires paying attention to certain patterns that consistently repeat themselves. The first sign is an artificial sense of urgency. Phrases like, "only the first 100 reservations," or "offer valid only until midnight," are pressure tactics designed to prevent the person from thinking calmly. The second pattern is the unofficial contact channel. Tesla communicates exclusively through the website tesla.com and verified apps. Any contact that comes from outside these channels, regardless of how professional it seems, does not have a legitimate origin. The third pattern is the request for payment through methods that offer no traceability or chargeback, such as direct bank transfers, prepaid cards, or cryptocurrencies.